Hello everyone and welcome back to Stamps Old World UK. Today we are exploring a fascinating piece of British philatelic history, the Queen Elizabeth II. 1 shilling and 6 pence postage revenue stamp issued during the early years of the Queen's reign. This beautiful stamp is one of the most recognized high-value, definitive stamps of the 1950s and remains a favorite among collectors around the world. Queen Elizabeth II ascended to the throne in 1952. Following the death of her father, King George VI. Soon after, a new series of definitive stamps was introduced featuring the young Queen's portrait. These stamps became known as the Wilding issue because the portrait was based on photographs taken by the famous photographer Dorothy Wilding. The 1 shilling and 6 pence value was among the higher denominations in the series and played an important role in British postal services during the 1950s. 1 shilling and 6 pence stamp was issued in 1953 and carried the inscription Postage revenue. This wording indicated that the stamp could be used not only for postal purposes, but also for certain fiscal and revenue applications. During this period, many British stamps carried the Postage revenue inscription, making them useful for multiple government functions. This dual purpose adds an extra layer of historical significance for collectors today. The design of the stamp is elegant and distinctly British. At the center is the youthful portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, surrounded by a decorative frame that reflects the artistic style of the period. The stamp was printed using photogravure techniques and produced by Harrison & Sons, one of Britain's leading security printers. The blue color chosen for the 1 shilling and 6 pence denomination gives the stamp a striking appearance that stands out in any collection. The portrait captures the optimism and confidence of the early Elizabethan era, a time when Britain was rebuilding and adapting to a changing world. One of the most interesting aspects of this stamp is its connection to the coronation era. Queen Elizabeth II was crowned on the 2nd of June 1953 at Westminster Abbey in London. The coronation was a historic event watched by millions around the world and marked the beginning of one of the longest reigns in British history. Stamps issued during this period are highly sought after because they represent the dawn of a new chapter in British history and the start of an era that would last for more than 70 years. Collectors often refer to this issue as part of the Wilding Definitive series. The 1 shilling and 6 pence denomination was commonly used for heavier letters, parcels, and special postal services. Because it served practical postal functions, large numbers were printed and used throughout the United Kingdom. However, finding examples in excellent condition can still be challenging. Collectors pay close attention to centering, gum condition, perforations, and cancellation quality when evaluating these stamps. The stamp was printed with various watermark and phosphor varieties over time. Advanced collectors spend years studying the subtle differences between printings. Some varieties are much scarcer than others and can command significantly higher prices. Watermarks, paper types, and phosphor bands are important factors that can influence value. For beginners, even identifying the correct variety can be an exciting journey into the world of philately. When discussing market value, condition is everything. A heavily used example with faults such as tears, missing perforations, stains, or heavy cancellations may sell for only a small amount. A clean used example in good condition typically sells for around $1 to $5. A mint example with original gum can often bring between $5 and $20 depending on condition and variety. Exceptionally well-centered examples or scarcer varieties may achieve much higher prices at specialist auctions. Some premium varieties can sell for several tens of dollars or more when demand is strong. It is important to understand that stamp values fluctuate over time. Market demand, collector interest, rarity, and condition all affect prices. Online auctions, stamp dealers, and philatelic exhibitions regularly provide updated information on current values. A stamp that sells for a few dollars today could become more desirable in the future as collectors seek high-quality examples for specialized collections. The 1 shilling and 6 pence postage revenue stamp also tells a story beyond its monetary value. It represents a nation entering a new age under a young queen. During the 1950s, Britain was experiencing social and economic changes while maintaining strong traditions. Millions of letters carried these stamps across the country and around the world. Every used example has its own journey and history, connecting us to a time when written correspondence was the primary means of communication. For collectors of Queen Elizabeth II material, this stamp is often considered an essential item. It combines historical significance, attractive design, and affordability, Whether you are a beginner building your first British collection or an experienced philatelist studying watermark varieties, the 1 shilling and 6 pence stamp offers something interesting to discover. Many collectors enjoy assembling complete sets of the Wilding issues. When displayed together, the different colors and denominations create a beautiful visual record of British postal history. The 1 shilling and 6 pence value is particularly attractive because of its rich blue color and higher denomination status. It often becomes one of the standout pieces in a mounted collection page. As we look back more than 70 years after its issue, this stamp remains a symbol of continuity, tradition, and the remarkable reign of Queen Elizabeth II. It reminds us of the coronation year, the excitement of a new monarch, and the enduring importance of postage stamps as miniature works of art and historical documents. Next up, a beautiful and historic Canadian stamp, Canada Scott No. 337, the Queen Elizabeth II 1 cent stamp issued in 1954. This small brown definitive stamp may appear simple at first glance, but it represents an important period in Canadian postal history and the early reign of Queen Elizabeth II. For stamp collectors around the world, this issue remains one of the most recognizable stamps of the 1950s and an essential part of any Canadian collection, the Canada 1 cent. Queen Elizabeth II stamp was officially issued on June 10, 1954. It was produced by the Canadian Banknote Company and features a portrait of the young Queen Elizabeth II based on a photograph by the famous photographer Dorothy Wilding. The stamp was designed by Herman Herbert Schwartz, while the portrait engraving was completed by Silas Robert Allen. This stamp is catalogued as Scott No. 337 and forms part of the famous Wilding portrait series that appeared across many countries of the British Commonwealth. The stamp was printed in a rich brown color and perforated gauge 12. When Queen Elizabeth II became queen in 1952, many countries within the Commonwealth began issuing new definitive stamps featuring her portrait. Canada was among the first nations to introduce a complete series showing the young monarch. The Wilding portrait became one of the most famous royal images ever used on postage stamps. It portrayed a youthful queen at the beginning of a reign that would eventually become the longest in British and Canadian history. The 1 cent denomination played an important role in everyday postal operations. During the 1950s, 1 cent stamps were commonly used as makeup postage when postal rates changed or when additional postage was required for heavier mail. Millions of Canadians used these stamps on letters, postcards, printed matter, and various postal services. Because of their widespread use, enormous quantities were printed. In fact, more than 1 billion examples of this stamp were produced, making it one of the most common stamps of the era. The design itself is elegant and classic. The portrait of Queen Elizabeth II dominates the center of the stamp while decorative scrollwork frames the image. The inscription Canada appears prominently, along with the 1 cent denomination. The simplicity of the design reflects the style of definitive stamps of the period, where clarity and practicality were considered more important than elaborate artwork. Despite its simplicity, the stamp remains attractive and instantly recognizable to collectors. One of the fascinating aspects of Canada Scott 337 is its connection to the early years of Queen Elizabeth II's reign. During the 1950s, Canada was experiencing rapid growth and modernization. Millions of letters carrying this stamp traveled across cities, provinces, and international destinations. Every used example tells a story of communication in an era before email, smartphones, and social media. Each cancellation mark represents a piece of postal history preserved on a tiny piece of paper. Collectors often study the different printings and varieties associated with this stamp. Specialists examine perforations, paper varieties, booklet panes, centering, gum condition, and postmarks. There is also a booklet pane variety known as Scott 337A, which is collected separately by many philatelists. These varieties add additional interest for advanced collectors seeking to build complete collections of the 1954 definitive series. Now let us discuss the market value of Canada Scott 337 in today's stamp market. Because over 1 billion copies were printed, the stamp is generally considered very common. A typical used example in average condition usually sells for approximately 3 to 8 Canadian cents. Mint examples with original gum generally sell for around 6 to 15 Canadian cents depending on condition. Very fine examples may reach slightly higher prices, while exceptional quality examples or specialized varieties can command stronger premiums from collectors. When converted into United States dollars, A standard used example is usually worth about $200 to $600 US. A mint example may range from approximately 500 to 1,200 cents US depending on quality and demand. Dealer prices can vary, and individual auction results may differ depending on condition, centering, and collector interest. Some online dealers occasionally offer mint examples for less than $1, while premium examples may sell for higher amounts. Although the stamp is not rare, its historical importance is significant. It represents the beginning of a new royal era and showcases one of the most famous portraits of Queen Elizabeth II ever used on postage stamps. Many collectors begin their Canadian collections with stamps such as Scott 337 because they are affordable, easy to identify, and historically meaningful. For collectors interested in Commonwealth stamps, the Canada 1954 1-cent issue offers an excellent opportunity to study the widespread use of the Dorothy Wilding portrait. Similar portrait designs appeared on stamps throughout the British Commonwealth, creating a fascinating collecting area that spans dozens of countries and territories. The stamp also serves as a reminder of the importance of traditional mail in the mid-20th century. During the 1950s, written correspondence connected families, businesses, and governments across vast distances. Every 1-cent stamp played a small role in maintaining those connections. Today, collectors preserve these stamps not only for their monetary value, but also for the stories and history they represent. More than 70 years after its release, Canada Scott No. 337 remains a beloved classic among collectors. Its attractive portrait, historical significance, and affordability ensure that it continues to be collected by both beginners and advanced philatelists. While it may not make anyone rich, it offers something far more valuable: a direct connection to the early years of Queen Elizabeth II's remarkable reign and to a fascinating chapter of Canadian postal history. Next up, a classic British definitive stamp, Great Britain Scott No. 298, the beautiful 4-pence Queen Elizabeth II stamp from the famous Wilding series. This stamp is one of the most recognizable issues of the early Elizabethan period and remains a favorite among collectors of British and Commonwealth stamps around the world. Great Britain Scott No. 298 was issued during the early years of Queen Elizabeth's reign and belongs to the Wilding definitive series. The design features a portrait of the young Queen Elizabeth II, based on photographs taken by the renowned photographer Dorothy Wilding. These photographs became the basis for one of the most famous stamp designs in philatelic history. The Wilding stamps were used throughout Great Britain from the early 1950s until they were gradually replaced by the machine series beginning in the late 1960s. The 4-pence denomination is printed in a striking ultramarine or violet blue shade that immediately attracts attention. The portrait of the Queen is framed within an elegant oval design, with the letters ER appearing in the upper corners, representing Elizabeth Regina, meaning Queen Elizabeth. Floral emblems appear in the lower corners, symbolizing the nations of the United Kingdom and reinforcing the stamp's national identity. The design is simple, dignified, and unmistakably British. This stamp was produced using the photogravure printing process by Harrison & Sons, one of Britain's most respected security printers. It carries the Tudor crown and E2R watermark that is characteristic of the early Wilding issues. Collectors often spend years studying watermark positions, paper varieties, phosphor bands, and other printing differences that can make certain examples more desirable than ordinary copies. The Wilding series marked an important moment in British postal history. Queen Elizabeth II had ascended the throne in 1952, and a completely new generation of stamps was required to replace those depicting King George VI. The British public quickly became familiar with the young Queen's portrait, and these stamps circulated on millions of letters throughout Britain and across the world. The 4-pence value was commonly used for specific postal rates and supplementary postage requirements. During the 1950s and early 1960s, one of the reasons collectors enjoy the Wilding series is the large number of varieties that exist. Different watermarks, phosphor bands, graphite lines, booklet issues, and printing changes create numerous collecting possibilities. A stamp that appears ordinary at first glance may actually be a scarcer variety worth significantly more than a standard example. This challenge has attracted specialist collectors for decades. Collectors on philatelic forums frequently note that Wilding stamps contain many subtle varieties and remain an active area of study today. The 4-pence stamp is also historically important because it represents the beginning of what would become the longest reign in British history. During the years when this stamp was in use, Britain experienced enormous social, economic, and technological changes. Every surviving used copy passed through the postal system during this remarkable period and serves as a small historical document from the early Elizabethan era. Now let us discuss the market. Value of Great Britain, Scott number 298. Because millions were printed and used, the standard stamp is generally common. A typical used example in average condition usually sells for approximately $100 to $500. Fine used copies with attractive cancellations may bring slightly more. Mint examples with original gum often sell between 500 cents and $300 depending on condition, centering, and watermark variety. Some specialized varieties or exceptional examples can command significantly higher prices among advanced collectors. Recent dealer listings commonly offer ordinary used examples for around 100 to 500 cents US. Condition remains the most important factor in determining value. Collectors carefully examine perforations, centering, gum condition, freshness of color, and cancellation quality. A perfectly centered mint example will always attract more interest than a damaged or heavily canceled copy. Specialized varieties involving phosphor bands or unusual watermark orientations may also achieve stronger prices at auction. Many collectors choose to build complete Wilding collections because the series offers an excellent combination of history, affordability, and variety. The 4 pence value is often considered one of the most attractive stamps in the set because of its rich blue color and classic design. When displayed alongside the other Wilding denominations, it helps tell the story of Britain's postal system during the first decades of Queen Elizabeth II's reign. More than 70 years after its issue, Great Britain. Scott number 298 remains a popular and accessible stamp for collectors of all experience levels. It represents the beginning of a new royal era, the artistry of Dorothy Wilding's photography, and the golden age of traditional British definitive stamps. Whether you are a beginner collector or specialist in British philately, this stamp deserves a place in your collection. Thank you for watching Stamps Old World UK. If you enjoyed this exploration of Great Britain, Scott number 298, the 4 pence Queen Elizabeth II Wilding stamp, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let us know if you own this classic stamp, whether you collect Wilding issues, and what interesting varieties you have discovered. Until next time, happy collecting and keep exploring the wonderful world of classic stamps.